The nights were the hardest. That's when the silence of our home would stretch and thin, becoming a fragile veil over the secrets she kept. My name is Mark, and for 10 years I thought my marriage to Sarah was a fortress. We had built it brick by brick with shared dreams, laughter, and the kind of comfortable quiet that only comes from deep understanding. Or so I thought. It started subtly, a new password on her phone. Late nights at the office that became more frequent. When I asked, she'd wave it away with a tired smile, blaming a demanding new project. I wanted to believe her. I clung to the image of the woman I married, the one whose eyes used to light up just for me. But a seed of doubt had been planted, and it was starting to grow in the dark. The real shift came with the late-night calls. She'd tiptoe out of our bedroom, thinking I was asleep. I wasn't. I'd lie there, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, listening to the muffled whispers from the living room. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't need to. The tone was enough. It was a soft, intimate murmur, a sound she hadn't used with me in years. It was the sound of a secret, a shared world that I was locked out of. Each whisper was like a tiny shard of glass embedding itself in my heart. I'd close my eyes and pretend I was dreaming, but the pain was too real. I'd see her shadow under the door, hear the soft click as she hung up, and then the creak of the floorboards as she returned to our bed. She would slide under the covers, her back to me, an invisible wall now permanently between us. I'd lie awake for hours, the scent of her perfume mixed with a betrayal so profound it felt like it was suffocating me. I became a ghost in my own home. During the day, we'd go through the motions. We'd talk about groceries, bills, and what to watch on TV. But her eyes would slide past mine, never truly connecting. She was there, but she was gone. The laughter that once filled our house was replaced by an oppressive quiet, a quiet that screamed louder than any argument ever could. My friends noticed the change in me. "You look exhausted, Mark," my best friend David said one afternoon. "Is everything okay with you and Sarah?" I just shrugged, unable to voice the nightmare I was living. How could I explain that my wife was whispering secrets to another man while I lay just a few feet away, pretending to be asleep? It felt too shameful, too pathetic. One night, the whispers were different. There was a desperate edge to her voice, a tension that coiled in the air. Curiosity, or maybe just a desperate need for the truth, finally overpowered my fear. I crept out of bed, my bare feet silent on the cold hardwood floor. I pressed my ear against the living room door. My breath caught in my throat. And then I heard it. A name. "Daniel." She said it with a longing that pierced through the door and straight into my soul. "I miss you too," she whispered. "I can't keep doing this, Daniel. Mark." He has no idea. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. Hearing his name, hearing her confirm my worst fears, it wasn't a shock. It was a final, devastating confirmation. All those nights of doubt, of self-blame, of wondering if I was going crazy, it was all real. I stumbled back to the bedroom, the name Daniel echoing in my mind. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just watched the ceiling as the first hints of dawn painted the sky gray. When Sarah came back to bed, I didn't pretend to be asleep. I turned and looked at her. For the first time in months, our eyes met in the dim light. I think she saw it, then the shattered pieces of my heart reflected in my eyes. Her face paled. "Mark," she started, her voice barely a whisper. "You're awake." "I've been awake for a long time, Sarah," I said, my own voice hollow. "Who is Daniel?" The silence that followed was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of our world breaking. The fortress we had built was crumbling around us, and I finally understood. She didn't think her late-night calls were silent because she was quiet. She thought they were silent because she believed my love for her had made me deaf. But she was wrong. My pain heard everything. The confession tumbled out of her in a flood of tears and apologies. Daniel was a colleague. It started as a friendship, an escape from the routine of our marriage. She said she felt unseen, that we'd grown distant. She never meant for it to go this far. The excuses felt like salt in an open wound. She was trying to explain the fire while I was still burning. Listened, not with anger, but with a profound and heavy sadness. The woman I loved was a stranger. The life I cherished was a lie. I asked her to leave. I needed space. I needed to breathe air that wasn't thick with deceit. The days that followed were a blur of emptiness. The house was too quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet now. It wasn't the tense silence of secrets. It was the hollow silence of loss. Every corner held a memory, now tainted. The armchair where she used to read, the kitchen where we'd dance while cooking, the bed we once shared. I spent a lot of time walking, trying to outrun the memories. I talked to David, finally letting it all out. He didn't offer easy answers. He just listened, which was exactly what I needed. He reminded me that her choices were not a reflection of my worth. It was a simple truth, but one I desperately needed to hear. Slowly, very slowly, I began to heal. It wasn't a straight line. There were days when the grief was overwhelming, when the phantom whispers seemed to echo in the empty house. But there were also good days. Days when I'd rediscover a piece of myself that I had lost in the marriage. I started painting again, a hobby I'd abandoned years ago. I filled canvases with the raw emotions I couldn't put into words. A few months later, Sarah reached out. She wanted to talk, to try and fix things. We met at a neutral coffee shop. She looked different than her, with a sadness in her eyes that mirrored my own. She told me she had ended things with Daniel, that she was in therapy, and that she realized the catastrophic mistake she had made. Her apology felt genuine this time. She took full responsibility without excuses. She asked for a second chance. And as I looked at her, I felt nothing. The burning anger and the crushing sadness had cooled into a calm, quiet certainty. I had forgiven her, not for her, but for me. I needed to let go of the bitterness to move on. But I couldn't go back. Trust, the very foundation of our love, had been pulverized. Can't rebuild a fortress on dust. I told her I wished her well, but that our story was over. It was one of the hardest conversations of my life, but also one of the most liberating. As I walked away from that coffee shop, I felt the sun on my face, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope for the future. A future that was mine alone to build. My story isn't about the triumph of revenge or the drama of a messy divorce. It's about surviving a quiet betrayal. It's about learning that sometimes the deepest wounds are inflicted not with a shout, but with a whisper. And most importantly, it's about finding the strength to listen to your own pain and choosing to heal. Even when it means walking away from everything you once knew. The silence in my home is different now. It's peaceful. It's my own. And it's the sound of a new beginning. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt unheard or unseen in a relationship, know that you are not alone and your feelings are valid. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories about navigating life's toughest challenges. See you next time.